Hi, everyone. Dr. Carolyn today. And today we're talking about self-sabotage. Now, I think you know self-sabotage is common. It happens in celebrities, public figures, and even in regular folks like us. Just think about how many people make New Year's resolutions in January, and over 80% of them have let those resolutions fall by the wayside by the time February comes along. So self-sabotage is also something that we deal with if you're struggling with binge eating disorder, emotional eating, or food addiction. Self-sabotage can be defined as undermining yourself or your own goals or plans. And it can be conscious or unconscious. For example, if you find yourself going through the drive-through yet another time, pretending that you're ordering for two people, when you're going to go home and binge on that food later that day, that's an example of self-sabotage. And it's conscious usually. An example of unconscious self-sabotage is, for example, forgetting a date you made or an appointment you made with a friend or with a personal trainer to go for a workout. Or maybe suddenly your office work situation just becomes super busy and you can't break away for that appointment that you made. So self-sabotage, though, can take a toll on your life. It can affect relationships, work, and of course, health. Now, many people with food addiction, emotional eating, and binge eating are also very perfectionistic or hard on themselves, too hard on themselves. And that too can be a form of self-sabotage. Maybe you haven't thought about that, but just think about this. If you have the belief that you have to be perfect, no matter what, that can often leave you feeling like you're just not good enough. And a fear of making mistakes or a need to be perfect can lead to procrastination and also self-sabotage. As well, we've talked a lot about trauma before, but a history of trauma can lead to feelings of being unsafe, making you feel you don't deserve to have success or to have any good things in your life. Sometimes behaviors, especially those around food, may have developed, though, as a way to deal with trauma, to deal with childhood experiences that you were not equipped to handle, whether it be abuse or neglect or living in a chaotic household. All of those things can be ways that our behaviors help us adapt to a difficult or traumatic situation. So when that happens, for example, turning to food for comfort can be seen as an adaptive behavior, even though as you get older, it can be seen as a self-sabotaging behavior. So what I mean is that the very thing that may have helped you survive as a child during a difficult or traumatic time in your life, now as an adult, leads to even more problems. It's common for self-sabotaging beliefs and behaviors to pop up or surface when we really want something badly, when we're approaching something that we truly desire. And for many, many people, the desire to be free from unwanted behaviors, food obsessions, and body dissatisfaction is truly heartfelt. It's not always just about appearance. It's something that they deeply want to master. And that is what it makes it so much harder even to accept when self-sabotaging behaviors come up. And you just like, well, why did I do that to myself? Why can't I succeed in this one area of my life? That's the question I often get when I work with patients in the Anchor program, for example, people with binge eating, emotional eating, and food addiction. Each of those many failures that you have where self-sabotage has kept you from something you truly desire will often be followed by feelings of shame or guilt, and then more behaviors. And then you get stuck in that vicious cycle that we've talked about in previous videos. So there's a saying, what gets rewarded gets repeated. Let me say that again. I'm going to repeat it. What gets rewarded gets repeated. If self-sabotage is something we truly don't want to do, then why do we keep doing it? Well, I often tell my patients in the Anchor program that we don't continue to do things that don't serve some kind of purpose for us. And that may sound very counterintuitive, and you may be very resistant to that idea. But I think if you dig deeper below the surface, you may find that turning to food may help you deal with unpleasant emotions. It may fill a void that you feel inside of yourself. It may help you feel like you're a little secret rebel when you can't rebel in the real world. And there's many other reasons why turning to food is a way in which, although it can be self-sabotaging, it also serves a need that we have. So I encourage you to, take the challenge to look a little deeper and see what void or what need your self-sabotaging behaviors are filling. So I wanted to just mention a few ways that you can begin to put a stop to self-sabotage. The first one is to become more aware of what you're feeling, what your emotions are. Now, only 1 in 3 people actually know what they're feeling. Sounds bizarre, I know, but I would say the majority of my clients with food addiction, binge eating, and emotional eating do not know what they're feeling at any given time because they've spent so much time pushing down those feelings with food. So we want to really get in touch with the feelings, because your emotions can serve as messengers to you to help you identify, what is going on, what kind of thoughts you're having, what beliefs you're having, why you're so upset that you need to turn to food. So start becoming aware of your emotions. Number 2, one way to do that is to journal about your emotions, and also include how your emotions lead to overeating, or when certain emotions lead to overeating. That will then begin to give you evidence of how you use food. Like I said before, you may be using it for comfort. You may be using it as an escape. You may be using it for adventure. How do you use food? So journal about your feelings and the relationship it has to your overeating, binging, food addiction, or emotional eating. Number 3, think about the messages you were given or that were implied when you were growing up. Especially if you have childhood trauma, you may have been told by parents or other caregivers or someone at school that you're not worth loving, you're not lovable. And those kinds of feelings may come up all throughout your day, your week, your month, without you identifying what the feeling is attached to, like what belief the feeling is attached to. Maybe you had a very critical parent, and that led to your perfectionism because nothing was ever good enough. Like I know with my mother, we had to clean the living room floor with the toothbrush because doing it with a mop just wasn't good enough for her. So that can lead to a sense of feeling like nothing you do is going to be good enough. And that is a setup for self-sabotage. Number 4, set up structures in your life, at work, etc., to interrupt and avoid self-sabotage. So, for example, if you're supposed to be meeting someone or you have an appointment with your personal trainer, or you're meeting a friend to go and exercise, I would set an alarm on your phone, and I would set 2 or 3 with a reminder the day before. And then if you start to notice feelings coming up of resistance, again, reinforce that you don't need to continue to resist or to self-sabotage these behaviors that you truly desire and want. So self-sabotage doesn't have to make you feel ashamed or guilty. It can be seen as a message, a lesson that you can learn from. And the lesson could be, it's time for healing. It can be a call to action. So I want to remind you, please leave us a review. If you're ready to answer that call to action, you can sign up for a free consult, and information is in the show notes down below. We have an anchor program starting very soon. So if you're interested, don't self-sabotage. Set up your consult right now before you have a chance to triple think yourself. I don't think that made sense, but I think you know what I mean. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to remind you of is that we do have a book sweepstakes going on. If you'd like to win a copy of my book, the Food Addiction Recovery Workbook, look for the link in the show notes. And all you have to do is go to that link and enter the sweepstakes. And you too could be a winner of a free copy of the Food Addiction Recovery Workbook. Okay, I hope this was helpful. This is Dr. Carolyn signing off.